here today, though I work for the industry. It's because of Aditya's persuasion, because I wondered what I'm doing here. And I realized it's the most in topic today and we can't brush it under the carpet. So I really thank the distinguished dignitaries who have come here today. Economic development comes to an end and huge expenditure to meet the challenges of terrorism. What does Gandhiji say about terrorism? Terrorism and deceptions are weapons not of the strong but of the weak. What does William Shakespeare say? Hell is empty and all the devils are here when there is terrorism. And what does François Hollande say? There cannot be prosperity without security. These are some quotations my friend was kind enough to give me, and I think there may be a lot, and I'm sure each one of you will have a quotation of your own, and whoever is taking the minutes, I hope will take one quote from each one of you on how you define terrorism. Counter-Terrorism Council. It's a civil society group initiated by certain publicly spirited individuals to safeguard national interest and security. The foremost aim of GCTC is to formulate and present effective solutions to the society and governments regarding conception of a pragmatic human security policy and anti-terror drive. Many GCTC members have come forward to help create a better future for the generations to come by deliberating and contributing ideas, methods and processes to deal with the menace of terrorism. I will request you all to light the lamp after I introduce the distinguished speakers. We have Mr. Ajay Sharangu, Head of Onam Kashmir. Where are you, sir? A big hand to you, sir. General Singh, of course, he needs no introduction. Ajay Singh is the former Chief of Army Staff. He's the first Sikh to have led the Indian Army. He later became Governor of Arunachal Pradesh on retirement. Very, very warm welcome to you, sir. And you've been sort of a hero to me since I'm also an Army officer's daughter. And it's an honor for me to introduce you. Dr. B.P. Agarwal, sir, I think I know you also personally and always have admired the former Indian ambassador, Chairman of the Association of Asian Union, Chairman of Forum of Confederation in South Asia. Mr. Shekhar Dutt is another person whom I have worked when he was Defense Secretary. I was with the CII and worked with you, sir, and it was wonderful. You may not remember me. He's also, you do? Oh, thanks, I'm so flattered. He is former Governor of Chhattisgarh. He's an Indian Administrative Service officer and was Secretary in the Ministry of Defense. Are you involved with Madhubhumi, sir, or that's Mr. Prakash? I was Mr. Ajay, Professor Nalapat. We lost every time. I'll give you my personal experience. 6 packets of biscuits for 3 weeks lying on the ground. I saw dogs eating the dead bodies. I saw terrorist soldiers coming back and eating the dog. Was able to come back after 2 years, but so having been, I agreed to be a part of this session because I think it's high time people to of most states. I must admit, I watch you regularly, sir. I love that you do something where you have those 5 points, and it's really big time. And my kids watch it too. And on behalf of my children and my floral bouquets, so could you go ahead, please? Miss Anderson. Ajay. Please join me in doing. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Which has been created by Aditya Tikku and a bunch of individuals, General Singh and a whole range of individuals, frankly, who've all come together is one of the most important subjects which is confronting humanity, not just India. It is confronting the globe. And just on the basis of what we have seen in the last 1 month or so, there are so many questions which are today being raised on the minds of ordinary citizens. Yesterday itself, there was a terror strike in Kokrajhar in Assam, where again loss of civilian lives has taken place. So I think it's time that groups like these, and with due respect to General Singh and Aditya, whom I have been encouraging since he got in touch with me, I do believe that a lot of such platforms end up only as talking shops. And often what happens is that the kind of meat and the kind of substance which needs to come out, which somehow needs to integrate itself with the political establishment, with the policy makers and the citizens of the country, doesn't really take place. Lieutenant General Kamboj is also here, someone who has great experience of handling counter-insurgency. Whether it's in the Northeast, in Kashmir, I've often listened to him with great interest about his experiences of dealing with counter-insurgency, with terror. So I do hope, sir, that you will be able to throw some light in course of the day today in terms of where we are. General Singh, of course, needs no introduction. Someone who has been at the forefront, in a sense, of formulating the policies in our country, leading the army right from the forefront itself. I only have one question today on my mind. I was asking myself, what is it that we need to talk about today as all of us gather together? I think the one point which we need to answer and understand is very simple. And that is our approach to terror, our approach to dealing with terror, has it in any ways been delineated or not from what I believe is petty party politics? Are we still struggling in terms of our approach to terror from very, very narrow political prisms? Have we moved forward at all? Why is it that suddenly in 2016 we're seeing Kashmir is on the boil? We're seeing in Kokrajhar again there has been a strike, and who knows? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? So what's happening in the country? Why is it that we're seeing educated individuals, we're seeing engineers, doctors, all of them being attracted to this menace called the ISIS? Is it a poor reflection on the kind of society that we've become? Is it a poor reflection on the kind of polity we have become? Or is it simply put just an example of we as a citizenry, we as a democracy not really understanding where we're headed? So I hope that as we go along through the day today, many of the esteemed panelists here will be able to throw some light on this. Let's also try and make it interactive, because as I said, that one of the principal reasons why I agreed to be a part of this platform when Aditya approached me was that I was very clear that I'm not here just for a talk shop, right? There is enough talk which takes place. There are so many track 2, track 3 and track 4 platforms which exist across the globe that I'm what really comes out of that, I really don't know. But when Aditya approached me and when he explained to me the format, the whole purpose behind what was going on, I thought that maybe this is a great opportunity to try and understand where we are as a polity, as a society, as a democracy in terms of our approach to dealing with terror, particularly at a time when India is not isolated. No country is untouched from terror. In that kind of a global scenario, where is India? Are we safe? Or forget safety. I say, are we simply prepared? So General Singh, let me throw the floor open first with you. Are we prepared, sir? Are we prepared firstly to deal with terror is my question to you, sir.
Kind of for us to talk about these issues, and very rightly what he said, will it be just a talk shop? Will it be just a good interaction, good seminar, and then not being followed up? I think all of us who are here, our turf battle should not be lost. So I am protecting my turf, I am so and so. How come GCTC, how come this guy called Aditya Tikku, how come this council called World Counterterrorism Council is giving us ideas? So that is where, according to me, and political hurdles are part of the hurdles, let me say so, because when we talk of our nation and we talk of a world, or we talk of our planet, because we can't go to another one, initial comments, I will allow Bhupendra. Your name is synonymous with my younger brother, Bhupendra, so therefore I would never be able to forget it. But you kindly take the discussion forward by asking others.
Thanks very much, General Singh, and thank you for remembering me. Courtesy also to make. So in course of our conversations, maybe we can listen to his and see his presentation as well. But good time also to welcome Professor Nalapat, again someone whom I have followed very religiously over the years. Thank you, sir, for coming over. I've often seen your commentary on India's approach to terror. My own take on India's approach to terror has been that I believe that we are just not ready to deal with terror. I very humbly disagree with General Singh when he says that India will deal with terror. Of course we will deal with terror. But why is it that the loss of a human life is such a cheap commodity in India? It's not the same in America, it's not the same in England. Look at how Germany, France, they are suffering from terror today. I mean, suddenly they're seeing that 70 people or 100 people can die. Do I need to remind all of you sitting here in this room how many instances have taken place in this country where month on month hundreds of people have just died? And what have we done other than mere talk? Governments have changed. Today you have the so-called most man with a 56-inch chest who's there as Prime Minister. And I again look at it very, it disturbs me and it pains me to see that our approach is still only and only stuck with politics and not beyond that. So your thoughts are on this subject?
Well, actually, Bhupendra, thank you very much, Aditya and his friends. It needs to be encouraged. It needs to be replicated elsewhere. Now, so far as your question is concerned, Bhupendra, the fact of the matter is, I've said this for quite a long time, actually. We have not really gone into a post-colonial phase so far as our administrative structure is somebody else's problem. We are trained to believe that we as citizens have really very little rights here, that it's entirely the job of the colonial authority to do things. Unfortunately, successive governments have adopted that thinking. With the result, there's a very narrow band of consultation where it comes to dealing with terror. Now, if you look at, Jogi is here. If you look at the defense ministry in India, you don't have a single person in uniform in the defense ministry, unlike in Germany or Japan or the US or countries that are totally democratic. When the fact is, these are the guys in the front line. These are the guys who are, who know exactly where the problem is. Now, Ms. Thambi knows the problem because she's experienced it. They've experienced it. But you won't find anybody in the defense ministry except for those who are bureaucrats, and many of them who have very little contact with defense or defense issues. So the problem we are facing, Bhupendra, is our response to acts of terror is the response of a very small silo. And this silo does not expand itself into other silos. Now, India has become, over the last 20 years of liberalization, a fairly complex society. Whether it's the media, whether it's civil society, whether it's NGOs, whether it's private industry, it's become a very complex and, if I may say so, complicated society. But the administrative structure is still the same. And the range of opinions and options that are sought entirely from within this narrow structure. So the consequence, frankly, is that it's not that we don't have the capability, it's that we don't have the competence. But the problem is those with the capability are not linked to those with the competence because of the perception that ultimately it's the colonial administrative mechanism that decides for all of us every single issue. So I think the problem is, frankly, a very narrow band of assessment and analysis, and therefore a very narrow band of options. And most importantly, people say that the definition of insanity is you keep doing the same thing, thinking you'll have a different result. Whether it is Kashmir, whether it is Assam, whether it is so many issues, I keep seeing the same policies being repeated over and over again with the same result. And I'm beginning to wonder when this cycle will ever end. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Professor Nalapathan. I think you've summed it up beautifully. And it just takes off from my opening comments that is over, we forget about it. Let me also tell all of you sitting here today that, and let's be very, very focused and sharp. Now, one of the reasons why we are here where we are today is also because of the events which are unfolding in the valley, in Kashmir. Now, I believe that the terms of engagement, the game is completely different today. If terror was a game, it's a completely different game, which is unfolding itself in the valley. You know, I was speaking to the Home Minister a couple of days back, and he said, "Humne sabko band kar diya hai. All anti-social elements are behind bars, under house arrest or whatever." But I asked him that what kind of a house arrest are you talking about if it is possible for anyone who's supposedly under house arrest or supposedly in touch with Pakistan anti-India elements to be in touch with me on WhatsApp, to be constantly sending me videos, messages, this is happening, that's happening, you know, and that's the reality. Are we, therefore, my point, and maybe Shekhar Dutt can take this one, sir, you know, in your administrative experience, do you get a sense that we as a political class, we as a democracy, are we really aware of how quickly, how rapidly the rules of engagement have changed as far as our approach to terror is concerned? Are we really ready for that? Have we changed?
To examine some of the issues and see where we are and where we should go. Bhupendra has been talking about, you know, to excite us to understand where we are. If you don't know where we are we going? Kutra gachasi, where do we go? Now, I would say just a point that, you know, I saw some of these unfold, right? Almost as early as the late 60s and 70s, early 70s, when Pakistan tried to get India into a mode of becoming defensive. And why did they do so? I would suggest, I mean, if you just see it from this angle, that what has happened after partition? Why did partition benefit a group of people? The partition of India benefited a group of people who ultimately controlled Pakistan. And it's a small group of people. It is not, it's from Punjab, Pakistan, Punjab. And they control Pakistan. They control Baluchistan, they control Sindh, they control the Pakhtunis areas. In fact, things were never as good for them as what happened after the partition. Because suddenly they became a set of people who had the control of a full country. And this was not a very small country. Then they started becoming adventurous. And they wanted more parts, some parts from India, and also a completely hegemonistic rule. Unfortunately for them, the Bangladesh people revolted, and India moved into that position, and Bangladesh was created. The Pakistani army has never forgotten that. So, then Pakistani army takes on, and we come to a situation of US dependence on Pakistan. At the time when the Soviets had moved into Afghanistan, and the US started finding methods by which to get Afghans get rid of the Soviets. It was Pakistani army which suggested that bringing in the element of religion and Mujahideens were made. That was the first act of putting in terrorism for a cause. And religious elements were put in. And USA and the West benefited by this, and the Soviets were rejected out of Kashmir. Thereafter, the enthusiastic West started putting in a bigger wedge in the Soviet Union, and a relationship was formed with China. Kissinger was one of the big elements, but helped with Pakistan. So what I'm saying is that Pakistan, and especially the Pakistan army, and from within Pakistan it's the Pakistani Punjab, who's played a major role in changing the attitude of the West towards terrorism, and then the terrorism started coming back on them. And so Osama bin Laden and all that were part of the Mujahideen flock, which became terrorists. The other thing that we must observe and learn is that as far as the Americans are concerned, they've dealt with Osama bin Laden. They have put people at place, and they know if there is something, some element where they should intervene. They pick up the tide and they intervene. Do we learn from this? There's another case, an Israeli aircraft had been hijacked and taken to Kenya. The Israelis mounted a very swift operation and took their chaps right up to Entebbe, refueled it on way, and in a surgical operation got rid of the terrorists, got control of that aircraft, brought back. There was only one casualty. The chap's name was Yoni Netanyahu, President Mr. Netanyahu's brother. And I have a lot of friends who were in that. Now, Israelis decided that they must take action, and they had a game plan. Do we have a game plan?
That's the point.
What is a game plan? A game plan, ladies and gentlemen, is something that you enact scenarios in your mind, putting yourself in the shoes of the terrorists, and enact in your mind the action that you have to neutralize. You have to do to neutralize it. There is no beating around the bush. There's another case, an Israeli aircraft had been hijacked and taken to Kenya. The Israelis mounted a very swift operation and took their chaps right up to Entebbe, refueled it on way, and in a surgical operation got rid of the terrorists, got control of that aircraft, brought back. There was only one casualty. The chap's name was Yoni Netanyahu, President Mr. Netanyahu's brother. And I have a lot of friends who were in that. Now, Israelis decided that they must take action, and they had a game plan. Do we have a game plan?
That's the point.
What is a game plan? A game plan, ladies and gentlemen, is something that you enact scenarios in your mind, putting yourself in the shoes of the terrorists, and enact in your mind the action that you have to neutralize. You have to do to neutralize it.
The format just for a moment, and I just want to listen to Lieutenant General Philip Compose. For those of you who are not familiar with him, he's just retired as the Vice Chief of the Army, and he's been. And thank you very much, sir, for coming. My other association with him is that he also happens to be my schoolmate, of course, many years senior to me. But he's someone who's been writing extensively, you know, on the 1st of January, New Year's Day, when the attack in Pathankot happened, henceforth, he's been writing extensively about where we are in terms of our approach to terror. So I think just the point that you make, that do we have a game plan, I think is an important point just to hear from him for a few moments. Sir, do we have a game plan, sir, to deal with terrorism?
Thank you, Western Command. 3 years back, when terror revisited J&K in the form of what is known as Fidaiin terrorism, you know, since the late 90s, when terrorism has resurfaced in Jammu and Kashmir, we've had a whole lot of terror attacks by small modules in the late 90s and right up to Mumbai 2008. There are innumerable terror attacks. Each one, the maximum number of victims were in Mumbai. I think over 160 killed and a whole lot injured. But if you check on the figures before that, there are almost every month there were 1 or 2 incidents. Then it stopped at 2008 for certain reason, because the Pakistanis felt that with Mumbai 2008, they had come very close to a proper military response by India. And that made them stop for 5 years, right up to September 2013, when these attacks resumed. Now, when I talk of these terror attacks, they are something over and above the insurgency and the terrorism which has continued in J&K, in Kashmir, especially right from 1990. So these terror attacks have recommenced in the umbrella of the tactical nuclear weapons, which were brought into service by the Pakistani army in that month. In August 2013, they brought in, at least publicly, it was claimed that they had brought in tactical nuclear weapons into the Pakistan military. And next month onwards, the terror attacks started. I must admit that despite the fact that our troops had been cautioned that terror attacks may recommence, but in this attack in Samba, both the police and the army was taken by surprise. I think we lost about 11 people put together, 6, I think, policemen and maybe 4 or 5 army men, including the second in command of 16 cavalry at Samba. But thereafter, we got our act together. At least locally, we got our act together. And it was not only the army, the police, the BSF. We started talking to each other. We started coordinating very closely with each other. And the result was, for the next 2 years, every terror attack which was attempted in the Jammu region mostly, and also in parts of Kashmir, were dealt with very effectively with minimum or no casualties. So the point I'm trying to make here, A, is that if you really decide that something has to be done and done effectively, it can be done. But then the effect of this was that Pakistan spread the arc of terror outside J&K. And July last year, 2015, we had the phenomenon of an attack in Gurdaspur. The same Fidaiin module now surfaced in Gurdaspur on the 27th of July last year. And then 5 months later, we had the attack on 1st of November at the Pathankot Air Base.
I just want you to tell me, sir, Lieutenant General Kambo speaks as an army man. Shekhar Dutt speaks as a bureaucrat. I want to understand from you, sir, that where our external affairs department, our foreign policy mechanism, is our foreign policy approach to dealing with terror? Are we all on the same page? The armed forces, the bureaucracy, the external affairs department, are we all on the same page, or are there gaps somewhere which exist in between, sir?
I ran into the multiple factional fights among the Palestinian groups. The Palestinians with Arafat were still based in Beirut. But in 1982, the first Israeli invasion of Lebanon took place. And that was a horrifying experience. The city was divided. There was a green line, Christians on the one side, the Muslims on the other. Practically everyone from West Beirut had moved out to East Beirut. Even we had to move out some of our staff because most of our nationals were in East Beirut. Mother Teresa also came there. We arranged for her to go out into West Beirut and pick up some helpless children whom she rendered great compassionate service. Then after the Israelis carried out the massacres of Sabra and Shatila, and they defeated the Palestinians and forced them to leave for Tunisia. The demographic balance, the religious balance got changed once again. Something similar is happening in Kashmir, which I'll come to later. The demographic balance was upset because the Palestinians came into Lebanon. Lebanon had a very beautiful system. They had a Christian president, a Sunni prime minister, a Shia speaker of the parliament, and a Catholic deputy speaker. And it was going on beautifully. The system is still there. But the influx of Sunni Palestinians into Lebanon had upset the population balance. And Syria, which is now in mess, was at that time a stable country, but was a dominant force in Lebanon. And it used to be said that every Syrian army was there, that every Syrian major was under kind of obligation to snatch a Mercedes car from anyone and present it to his general back home in Syria. Even our embassy lost a couple of cars, though not the Mercedes. This scenario in Lebanon reminds me of the fact that today what is happening under the Islamic State is a part of a worldwide, a world war of some kind. You had the First World War over colonies. You had the Second World War, which was actually the result of the First World War. Because Hitler exploited the reparations problem and his own anti-Semitism to create an atmosphere for Nazism. Now that Nazism was only defeated when Hitler was physically defeated. But after the end of the Second World War, we crept into the Third World War. Third World War is the Cold War, which lasted almost 40 years, because the Soviet Union emerged as a controller of half of Europe and East Germany. And they started the Comintern, and they wanted to convert the whole world into communism. So it was a war against communism. That war lasted 40 years, at least until the Berlin Wall fell. But in the process of ending of the Cold War, as Mr. Shekhar said, the seeds of the next war had already been sown, because religion, Islam was used, Osama bin Laden was used, Taliban was used, and that has now become a Frankenstein. The Islamic State may not have emerged but for short-sighted policy of Obama. I know Bush had blundered into Iraq. Even the Americans realize that and say that. But once you have made one blunder, you cannot correct it with another blunder. The speed with which Osama bin Laden with Obama pulled out of Iraq with a declared timetable gave the defeated Iraqi generals to regroup and to become even more radical. Today, the Fourth World War, I have a whole list here of incidents which have happened in different parts of the world since 9/11 in America, and I'll go backwards from today: Pathankot, Paris, Beirut in October, November 15, 143 dead, in Egypt 24 dead, October 15, Turkey 95 dead, July 15, Turkey 31 dead, June 15, Tunisia 39 dead, April 15, Kenya about 150 dead, Tunisia. You have Boko Haram in Africa. You have incidents every other day in some part of the world or the other. So what we are now, the part Kashmir problem is also why are the Islamic State flags being flown in Kashmir. And the other day at another seminar, Muzaffarpur said that the Kashmir problem will not be solved until Islamic State has been dealt with, until a deadly blow has been dealt to the Islamic State. So this war is on two fronts, the ideological front and on the ground. And our experience of the previous world wars shows that the ideological war can only be won after you have won the war on the ground. It's only after Hitler was defeated that Nazism and fascism were defeated. It is only after the Soviet Union was dissolved that communism was defeated, which had a world ambition. And it is only after this Islamic fundamentalism, which today is pitted against unarmed, innocent men, women and children, is defeated. And this is the appeal of Donald Trump in America. He started with that, and we don't know the results yet. But whatever happens in the US in November is going to have a tremendous impact. I'm sure that even if Hillary won, she will have to relook at the policy. So what I'm trying to say is that our foreign policy has to be in the world context. We cannot just concentrate on terrorism in India. Zakir Naik and all the other people who are going to Islamic State from all over the world are a part of a certain ideology. And the origin of that ideology can only be understood if we can talk freely about who Muhammad was and what his life was.
Luckily on bail
So this is a question.
Getting away from going back to jail. ठीक है? और हम इधर confused हैं कि यार ये बंदा clearly बताया ना हमें former president हैं कि यार बच्चों ये बंदा freedom fighter है या नहीं है कुछ और चीज़.
ओके मैं फिर थोड़ा सा मुझे 2-3 मिनट दो ना. इशू देखो माहौल इधर 1979 से बहुत तब्दील होता चला रहा है. एक रिलीजियस मिलिटेंसी हमने पाकिस्तान के हक में यहाँ सोवियट्स को निकालने के लिए हम मुजाहिदीन लाए पूरी दुनिया से. हमने तालिबान को ट्रेन किया, उन्हें वेपन्स दिए, उनको अंदर भेजा. वो हमारे हीरो थे.
ठीक है.
ये जो हक्कानी है हीरो है हमारा जी. 80s का हीरो है.
बिल्कुल.
ओसामा बिन लादेन हमारा हीरो था.
CIA का भी था शायद.
यस, ये ज़वाहिरी हमारा हीरो था. तो माहौल अलग था. अब माहौल तब्दील हो गया. अब वो हीरो जो है वो विलेन बन गए. ठीक है. अब आप 90s को लें, कश्मीर की अब आप क्योंकि हाफिज सईद वगैरह की बात कर रहे हैं. देखिए वहाँ एक फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल स्टार्ट हुई कश्मीर में 1990 में शुरू हुई. वो उनको मारा गया बुरी तरह से, इंडियन आर्मी ने मारा. वो भागकर पाकिस्तान आ गए. अब पाकिस्तान में फिर उनको हीरो रिसेप्शन दी गई. उनकी बिल्कुल ट्रेनिंग भी होती थी और हम उनके सपोर्ट में थे कि ये मुजाहिदीन हैं जो इंडियन आर्मी से लड़ेंगे अपने हकूक के लिए. यहाँ फिर ये लश्कर तैयबा वगैरह बनी, बहुत सी 10-12 और भी बनी. वो हमारे हीरो थे जी. वो इनको अपने भाइयों को बहनों को कश्मीर में अपनी जान के ऊपर खेल करके जाकर लड़ रहे थे
या
तो अब देखो ना इसीलिए मैं कहता हूँ इसको पूरे को समझना चाहिए।
समझ गया
ये कि आज ये विलन है तो इनको मारो पकड़ के।
तो इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ ना जन साहब कि कंफ्यूज्ड
नाउ अब माहौल जो है क्योंकि ये टेररिज्म ये कन्वर्ट हो गया है टेररिज्म में। ये रिलीजियस मिलिटेंसी जो पहले एक मुजाहिदीन एक्टिविटी एक पॉजिटिव उसका इम्पैक्ट
नैरेटिव दुनिया में बदल गया,
अब वो दुनिया में बदल गया, यहाँ भी ये हमारे यहाँ बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट कर रहे हैं, हमें मार रहे हैं, हम ही लोगों को मार रहे हैं और उनमें इन्हीं के लोग मुलव्वस हो गए, तो इसलिए ये नेगेटिव हो गया। तो इस वक्त इनको बिल्कुल कंट्रोल करना चाहिए और बंद करना चाहिए क्योंकि हम खुद इफेक्ट।
So now my point, sir, this is Parvez Musharraf, right? Yeah, this is his interview. You please tell me, all of you, General Singh, General Kamboj, everyone is, and Mr. Agarwal has spoken so eloquently. On television, and Sushil often goes to the Times Now studios, we keep saying, where is the proof, where is this, that? The guy is openly saying, we supported, we provided them training, and yet the broad consensus so far that seems to be emerging is that we are only responding. We still do not have any proactive approach. So Simi, the question is, I just want to hear from Simi for a moment, who's from the International Human Rights Organization. Simi, why is it that this concept of human rights, the question of human rights equals somewhere along the line, it's almost as if it's compromising our war on terror. The support for human rights and the war on terror. Is there an equation between the two somewhere? Do you believe that our protectors of human rights in any ways actually weakening our resolve to deal with terror?
No, I don't agree so, sorry. The protectors of human rights, our sisters have been involved in terrorist activities. We have also been talking to students, and I believe that is the biggest problem is education here, where the youth and the students, the children are not being educated about terrorism. They have no idea what it is. We deal on education for terrorism for small children ranging from 10 years old because they do not understand why they are victims of terrorism. We all are. Each one of you, a child does not know why he or she has to go through this. We are teaching them that religion is not linked to terrorism. We are teaching them that now is the age when we need freedom from fear.
This one, in the context of specifically in terms of our approach to what's going on in Kashmir.
Right.
We use words like insurgency in terms of what's happening in Northeast or Chhattisgarh or wherever else. But when it comes to Kashmir, the whole narrative somewhere changes. And somewhere now this perception is increasingly gaining ground, Simi, that those who speak about human rights are weakening our resolve. That that it's almost as if these are two separate divides that we're looking at. Dialogue with whom? Dialogue with whom? So let's hear from Dr. Changru. Ajay Changru is here. He's chairman of Panun Kashmir, and again someone with who's you've been hit by terror. You're a victim of terror. You've seen terror. Now there is the iron fist approach, dialogue approach. I simply say, and please do bear this in mind, all of you who are present in this room, that India has changed as a country. A lot of our citizens today are in the age group of 25 to 30 who do not know what had happened in 47, who do not know what had happened during emergency, shake up the... I was speaking yesterday, I happened to sit on the board of Indian Institute of Mass Communications. I was there yesterday, and I kid you not, I was absolutely amazed with the lack of understanding of nuances. Now, I cannot change this society. I can only bring in facts. I can bring in information. But they don't give a damn about what had happened when Sheikh Abdullah story happened. What had happened when Mufti Saeed's daughter got kidnapped. Everyone in this age group of 20 to 25 is under the impression that India has not got its act together as far as dealing with terror is concerned, as far as understanding the Kashmir problem is concerned. So, Mr. Changro, I would like to understand from you that do you agree with this, that we have somewhere just not understood what has hit us, and we still, as somebody said, we're only responding to whatever is going on?
I do agree with you that one of the biggest dangers to our approach of what is happening in Jammu and Kashmir has been the incomprehension. Now, if the new generation does not give a damn about the basic issues, they will have to give a damn about it. You cannot ignore fundamentals, you cannot ignore contradictions which are elemental. Like, you cannot ignore that the fact that after J&K acceded to India, the dominant politics in Kashmir was create a permanent Muslim sphere of influence. And you cannot ignore the fact that the political class of India tried to rationalize it as secularism, as a refutation of two-nation theory. Now, these cardinal components, the cardinal contradictions are incorporated in your thinking. Over the years, they create problems. We have a situation where Muslim identity politics turned into a Muslim subnational politics, was justified as a Muslim national politics, and now we are seeing the graduation from a Muslim separatist nationalist movement to a Muslim separatist Islamist movement. Now, how does this happen? That is a thing which we need to understand, and I personally feel that Indian political discourse on Jammu and Kashmir has been artificial and concocted. And since it has been concocted, we have concocted reasons for whatever is happening in the valley, which are not actually the reasons. Nobody who has been spearheading this moment for a long, long time, more than 3 decades, ever attributed to whatever is happening in the valley to unemployment, rigging of elections. But we try to tell and thrust this argument that it is because of the rigging of the elections and unemployment things are happening. Now, when we incorporate cardinal contradictions in our policy, in our thinking, there is something wrong on this side. And unless and until we address that what something is wrong, we will not be able to address it. Madam here said that in the imbalance on the human rights discourse, but once we talk about civil rights or human rights, we don't talk about terrorism. We don't talk about how terrorism destroys human rights. We don't talk about how it acts as a termite to destroy the entire legitimate discourse. Now, India is the only country which does not have an anti-terrorist law. India is the only country which has not geared up its administrative and legal system to meet the challenge which the asymmetry of terrorism creates in a system. Now, what are the reasons for that? The reasons are broadly political. There is a ideological conflict within this country, and there is a segment which is part of the overall national discourse which does not consider this nation as a nation. And they want to use the democratic space ultimately to balkanize the country into its nationalities, if there are any nationalities in this country. In the valley, what is happening, that the Muslim-based identity politics has graduated into Islamism. And how has this happened? Because we tried to hide that it is a Muslim-based identity politics. It's based fundamentally communal. It graduated into Muslim separatism, and Muslim separatism is graduating now into Islamism. How a democratic space is converted into a subversive space? We're not addressing this issue. Why is it happening that the organs of the society, various levels of administration, they are seen conniving in J&K state with whatever is happening? If we ignore and we try to imagine reasons which suit our political ideology or which suit our whatever objectives for which we have been here in the public life, then we will not be able to address it. We are seeing a situation in which a subversive order which is ideologically Islamist has taken root, and there is yet a reluctance in this country across the spectrum, from what Mr. Chobe said, that from the 26-inch Narendra Modi to, say, Sonia Gandhi, to recognize that what we have been talking about, a nationalist, a freedom struggle, is a regressive status moment. It's a theo-fascist moment. It has to be delegitimized. Mere popular support to it does not legitimize it. So that we give a consideration to it. We ultimately try to accommodate it. Hindu communalism needs to be fought as much as Muslim communalism needs to be fought in this country. Now, if we incorporate, we say that Hindu communalism is the tyranny of majority, and tyranny of majority is essentially fascist, and the minority communism is just a reaction, we are landing in a big trap.
Why? You know, you made that one point, and I want both Lieutenant General Kamboj and Professor Nalapar to come into this one. When you say, and the parents of that Muslim soldier who was killed in Iraq, so whether it's America or India, are we still pretty much sailing in the same boat, sir?
See, I just want to add to what you have the Buddhists, you have the moderate Sunnis, you have the Bakarwals, you have the Gujars. In the overwhelming majority of Kashmiris want no part in this freedom struggle. I mean, you know, you have Sushil and others here. It was very helpful against the Turks. Then it became helpful against Arab nationalists like Nasser, etc. Then it became helpful against the Russians. And you've got this, this very strong alliance between Wahhabism and the West, which has actually supplanted the real religion of Islam, because Islam is a religion of peace. There's no doubt it's as peaceful as any other religion, but Wahhabism is not. So this has taken place and has taken place in Kashmir. The religion that is being followed in Kashmir today is now increasingly Wahhabi, and that is a global threat. Now you've seen, I mean, I'm not going to talk about what happened 10 years, 20, 30 years ago. I mean, just about the year 2010, 2011, the Arab Spring. Now, some of us forecast at that March of that year that the Arab Spring is going to become a Wahhabi winter. It's what happened. Libya, Syria. Now, these have led to the kind of militias that have now spawned ISIS. Hopefully, it will now create a reaction. The reaction is not coming among the think tanks. If you look at the United States, Bhupendra, is not coming among the Eastern think tanks, is not coming among the administration, it's coming among the ordinary people. That is driving the Trump phenomenon.
That is my fear. And General Singh, one of my biggest concerns, and again, one of the reasons why I agree to be a part of this is because I'm seeing this happening for the first time in my professional life. Yeah. Either there's this whole iron fist approach, Kashmir hamara hai, Northeast hamara hai. It's pretty much the same language which has been used for I don't know how many years.
Bhupendra, just one more minute, Yeah. Now, if you give the signal, they'll sit in their bunkers waiting to be killed. Now you're going to have a problem. It's not only in Kashmir, in Haryana. We recently had an agitation in Haryana, and everybody knew through the Bush telegraph that the police were told not to really intervene, and as a result, the rioters went amok. They ran amok. Now, this is the problem. If you hobble your security forces, if you prevent them from acting in time, then the situation becomes very much worse. Whereas if you do firm action, because you may get in some problem with human rights groups, but the fact of the matter is you lose less blood and far less trouble if you take strong action in time. But unfortunately in Kashmir, the same thing has happened that took place in Haryana. The rioters have got a perception that the police are not going to create a problem, and the army will also react in a very half-hearted way, and as a consequence they are getting a confidence that that agenda is likely to succeed. You have to make it very clear to them any kind of agenda outside the Indian state and outside the boundaries of genuine secularism is just not going to happen.
But how do you do that? How do you do that? The truth is, look at what's going on in Jammu and Kashmir. The feeling is that unless you accept that there is an agenda which is against the Indian state, you can't solve the problem then. Then how do you move forward then? You wanted to make a point about
I just want to clarify, or in, Gujar agitation or something like that. When it comes to a disturbed area, where AFSPA is in force, then the military has got certain legal powers and protection. And then you do not need, but that is not to say that the military is carrying out these actions on its own. As far as possible, we bring in the police, definitely. When we go in for an operation, we always make sure that 1 or 2 police representatives are there, so that we are not doing things entirely on our own, for which we can be blamed later.
Bhupendra, I just want to make one small point, please. Please talk about that, Operation Parakram. That there's going to be a nuclear war. I wrote a piece that came in the Washington Times. There is zero chance of nuclear war. Pakistanis are not mad to go in for a nuclear war. Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, if they know very well that your attack is not to capture territory permanently, They are not lunatics to go in for nuclear war. Unfortunately, we have allowed ourselves to be frozen in this concept that war is something we have to be afraid of.
So you're saying we can attack Pakistan
I'm
realizing
Bhupinder,
that it is not going to
I
be a
can tell
nuclear
you
impact.
from my limited study of geopolitics, if you have got some good diplomacy with the United States and with Iran, for example, yes, it is feasible to launch an attack on Pakistan.
Again, bring back the dialogue to, or discussion to, the fact that how is all this, terrorism and incidents happening, whether they are, and who's at the back of it. What I had said earlier, that it was the Pakistan army, and within the Pakistan army, a set of people who want to keep a control over the Pakistan themselves.
I just want to say one line because we've faced bullets. We've been hit very hard also. I was in a cupboard or in a tehkhana below. The house owner said, "Janab, हम बेकसूर हैं, AK-47 दिखा के इन्होंने बोला आप करो, तो हमने किया। अब कश्मीर में हमने उनको वार्निंग दे के छोड़ा, put them on a register that these are possible collaborators, possible. We didn't do much."
Between what the two of you are saying. So there's this the guy who made this Peeply Life film, Mahmood Farooqi, with his wife Anusha Rizvi. He's been convicted of rape. He's been sent to 7 years jail by a trial court. Now, there is a debate going on, much like in Burhan Wani's case, was he a terrorist or not? There is a debate going on in certain sections that, arey, usko phasa diya. He's been set up. Now, only court and he knows what's going on. I have spoken to the topmost legal minds in this country about this case with the judgment, with whatever was the prosecution, etc. One of the leading lawyers, in fact, one of the topmost lawyers, not just in India, across the globe, made one point to me. So there was a judgment, all of you would be aware of the fact that, which came up post December 16 gang rape in Delhi in 2012 by Justice Verma. That judgment effectively altered the scope of criminal jurisprudence, which was that you were deemed to be innocent unless you were proven guilty. In this case, now post this judgment, you are actually guilty and the onus is on you to prove your innocence. Now my point, sir, is this. You are saying if you are collaborating, no, don't spare, don't show any mercy. You are saying, sir, army is all for human rights. Of course, I'm not suggesting that you kill human rights. I'm not some hate monger or anything. But I'm saying if certain decisions can be taken in the context of gender justice to this degree, why is it, Simi, that we cannot take these decisions when it comes to dealing with terror? Why is it that our laws, I don't know how many of you saw an interview which I did last week with Muzaffar Beg of the PDP, founder of the PDP. I was completely aghast when he told me that the Indian army does not follow protocol when it comes to active encounters, that they are not taking a district magistrate. I said, what are you talking about? Did you want a district magistrate to go to a live encounter site? I will not go to a live encounter site if you were to tell me कि तुम चलो कैमरा लेके चलो मैं क्यों जाऊं?
But so, no one knows when an encounter is taking place. They don't wear uniform. Terrorists are no uniform. They are mixed with the people. Suddenly they shoot at you. Now you wait. Judge sahab aiye, magistrate sahab aiye.
So Simi, in gender justice, to provide gender justice, we have gone to this degree where people are saying to ensure that 10 crimes are not committed, if 2 innocents have to be sent to jail, so be it. That's the view which is being taken to provide gender justice. Therefore, my question is, why can you not apply similar yardsticks when it comes to dealing with terror? Yeah,
I don't see why you cannot apply it. There are serious gaps.
Will say,
No. I would like to clarify a point here, please. In this forum, let me explain that there are various human rights organizations. It's a difficult one. It is a difficult one because what happens is a lot of passion gets involved in it, as we have seen. And at that time, I think that's where the armed forces, the defense, our defense lines take a decision, and they have their own guidelines on human rights in that context. I think what is lacking there, the gap there, is the knowledge, the skills, the tools, and the implementation of these guidelines which have been given for protection of human rights in such extreme circumstances. And that is where the gap is, which I think, as senior people in this forum, as part of your action plan, please include that as part of your action plan, the implementation of the international human rights treaties, as well as parallel to protect the victims. And in stopping the nation and its citizens in creating more terrorists tomorrow, put in place an action plan for education within the system?
Major, I have 3 points. Yes. It's done from there, it's financed from there, and we stop at the line of control, and we figure out that if we raise more battalions of the Rashtriya Rifles, and if we do Hearts and Mind campaign, somehow it will stop, because we are a nation of 2.25 billion people. It's not going to stop unless you stop it physically. All right. Now there are very, very sacrosanct and very thought through military dimensions to this conflict. Unless we explore those options, it's not going to happen. And to the lady there, Ms. Simi, I'd just like to tell you one thing, ma'am. I agree with what you're saying, but about the Indian Army, I've served there not for a very long period of time, but whatever I've seen of the Army is that we are not only a powerful army, we are also a moral army.
Yes, that's right, and I agree with that. I agree with that.
Thank you, sir.
The Muslims in Kashmir. If you reorganize the state under not a religious but a linguistic formula, you are perfectly on a legal basis, and once you have done that, once you have cut Kashmir to size, the Muslims will see more sense, and they may even start missing the Pandit.
We refer to Kashmir as an issue. We are not talking about Kashmir Valley. We are always talking about Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. Now, if we minimize the problems, how can we do that? Reorganize Jammu and Kashmir into different states. For example, Jammu is a different state.
Is that?
Yeah, Jammu is a different state. Let me tell you what reorganization would mean. Jammu as a separate state, it has it fills all the requirements of to be an independent state, a state of within Union of India. Ladakh is a union territory. They have been asking for a union territory status for a long time. In fact, in Ladakh, across political parties, there is a unanimous agenda there in Ladakh that they want to have a union territory. Now in Kashmir itself, we, for example, whatever Indian government wants to do with the Islamists in Kashmir, they want to compromise, they want to segregate them further, give them whatever they want. But we Kashmiri Pandits refuse to be drawn into Dinichu anymore. 6 centuries of persecution wouldn't want to have it. So please, a union territory within the valley for Kashmiri Pandits so that they can enjoy the religious freedom that all Indians in the rest of India do.
But can I be very honest and break your heart? It's impossible.
Sir, I follow jihad around the world. I see Kashmir burning. It's going to be Aleppo in Srinagar one day, and that day you will realize, you know what? The talk of jihad is being taken into seriousness now because ISIS is coming up. But you don't realize. There was this, what was this guy's name? Kafil, a space scientist from Bangalore. He went all the way to Glasgow to blow himself out of the airport there. And you know what was the target? School kids going on an excursion. We never took cognizance of that.
Let's listen to, and again, the request to all of you, this platform should be used to look for a constructive approach.
Absolutely.
The organization of Jammu and Kashmir is the most conservative approach in the process.
I agree with you. Just 1 minute, sir. Peaceful. What the hell is wrong in this small little area? Let us focus on the issues there and an action plan we made which has all dimensions. Second thing which is, Bhupendra, I want to just like to clarify. Let's not go away with the wrong impression that a nuclear aspect can be lightly talked of. There are military options, and I don't want to go into details about that, which we are aware, that you have those things which can be done, and there's a military response, but keeping in mind this factor, and we have to be very, very careful and not go a war. One thing, there is a war means a war which is declared, and therefore 2 nations are at war. There is a conflict which can be regional. Kargil was confined to a region, and I'm the ADGMO then, I planned the whole, from Army Headquarters side I contributed. What I'm saying is that conflicts are possible and we should have our hard knocks we should do, but within the factor of the umbrella.
I think what you're saying, sir, is this. My problem with India's engagement with Pakistan has been that we don't seem to have a clear focus.
Yeah.
What we want to do. There are 2-3 options. The separatists next year we are this ping-pong diplomacy. I think it's a problem. But let me just hear from Sushil because he's been waiting for a while till I come to you. This whole business of looking for a solution,
separate, and we have POK yet to be claimed back. let us create that POK as a zone for separatists. There we can give them special status and whatever they demand. But whatever is Indian occupied Kashmir and all, within that the Indian constitution should flow, have a free flow. That is how we can limit the area of conflict as well.
Let's listen to better. Second
hearing about the morals and ethics and the heroism of the Indian Army. So I salute every Indian officer who is here. I know what a great, I say it with great humor. And second thing, I come from a family of army officers. My cousin, Colonel D.P.K. Pillai, he was interviewed by CNN, IBN, I don't know if you remember. He is the hero of Manipur. He was shot by insurgents, terrorists in Manipur, given up for dead. But he didn't die, and he saved the children of Manipur, took them in the helicopter and saved them. Today, he has gone back to Manipur as a big hero, and the army, the Manipuris love him. He has made such a bridge between the army and the Manipuri people. So there are heroes like that in the Indian Army itself. And in my own family, if I can give you 2-3 instances like this, I'm sure there are many, many more. So as an army officer's daughter, I felt it was my duty to put in a word. Thank you, sir. Thank you, all of you. Thank you. It's been a wonderful listening to the wonderful stories.
There is another issue. So that we are not doing things entirely on our own, for which we can be blamed.
Bhupendra, I just want to make one small point, please. Please understand that Kashmir, why only in Kashmir? In fact, it's spreading across the country. In our own state of Kerala, which frankly was a very moderate state and where you really don't have communal violence, it's there in Kerala. Now, if you see Wahhabism succeeding in Kashmir, in any form to any degree, you are incentivizing people across the country, and the fire that is there is going to start burning in other parts of the country as well. Okay, that is why Kashmir is so important.
The protectors of human rights are not weakening any protection against terror. We are only trying to support the United Nations in implementing their guidelines for counter-terrorism. We work with neglected groups, people who are also victims of terrorism, families whose brothers, daughters, sisters have been involved in terrorist activities. We have also been talking to students, and I believe that is the biggest problem is education here, where the youth and the students, the children are not being educated about terrorism. They have no idea what it is. In our human rights advocacy courses, we have now been forced to bring in a module on education for terrorism for small children ranging from 10 years old, because they do not understand why they are victims of terrorism. We all are. Each one of you here is a victim of terrorism. Suba and I may have been through a bad experience. However, when you have to be subjected to 20 rounds of security checks at any place, you are a victim of terrorism. This never used to happen before. A child does not know why he or she has to go through this. We are teaching them that religion is not linked to terrorism. We are teaching them that now is the age when we need freedom from fear. It's a hysteria out there, and yes, human rights groups have to be handheld just as any other individual has to be handheld, and it's the UN that is giving us the guidelines.
But why is this perception? Because I see this being debated extensively in the media, and now I'm seeing again in the context of Kashmir, and maybe Professor Lalapati and
others here. You have a Wahhabi group there, which has been inspired for a very long time and supported by certain countries. I agree with Mr. Agarwal. In the beginning, Wahhabism was very helpful against the Turks. Then it became helpful against Arab nationalists like Nasser, etc. Then it became helpful against the Russians. And you got this, this very strong alliance between Wahhabism and the West, which has actually supplanted the real religion of Islam. Because Islam is a religion of peace. There's no doubt it's as peaceful as any other religion. But Wahhabism is not. So this has taken place and is taken place in Kashmir. The religion that is being followed in Kashmir today is now increasingly Wahhabi, and that is a global threat. Now you're seeing, I'm not going to talk about what happened 10 years, 20, 30 years ago. Just about the year 2010, 2011, the Arab Spring. Now, some of us forecast that March of that year that the Arab Spring is going to become a Wahhabi winter. It's what happened. Libya, Syria. Now these have led to the kind of militias that have now spawned ISIS. Hopefully it will now create a reaction. The reaction is not coming among the think tanks. If you look at the United States, Bhupendra, it's not coming among the Eastern think tanks, it's not coming among the administration, it's coming among the ordinary people. And that is driving the Trump phenomenon.
That is my fear. And General Singh, one of my biggest concerns, and again one of the reasons why I agree to be a part of this, is because I'm seeing this happen for the first time in my professional life. In 20 years that I've been in this business, for the first time I'm seeing the kind of, I don't know how many years.
But just one more minute, Now, if you give the signal, if you're the state government going to give a signal, that don't worry about the police, we have told them to behave. They'll sit in their bunkers waiting to be killed. Now you're going to have a problem. It's not only in Kashmir, in Haryana. We recently had agitation in Haryana. And everybody knew through the Bush telegraph that the police were told not to really intervene. And as a result, the rioters went amok. They ran amok. Now, this is the problem. If you hobble your security forces, if you prevent them from acting in time, then the situation becomes very much worse. Whereas if you do firm action, because you may get into some problem with human rights groups, but the fact of the matter is you lose less blood and far less trouble if you take strong action in time. But unfortunately in Kashmir, the same thing has happened that took place in Haryana. The rioters have got a perception that the police are not going to create a problem, and the army will also react in a very half-hearted way, and as a consequence they are getting a confidence that that agenda is likely to succeed. You have to make it very clear to them, any kind of agenda outside the Indian state and outside the boundaries of genuine secularism is just not going to happen.
But how do you do that? How do you do that? The truth is, Professor Alpat says that you have to tell them clearly any agenda outside the Indian state is not acceptable. But again, if you look at what's going on in Jammu and Kashmir,
is concerned, a guy who carries a weapon, is armed to the hilt, is a terrorist. He has to be dealt with an iron fist. There is no two ways about it. Where human rights are for innocents. And do you know, velvet glove is what our principle was. Iron fist for the terrorists and a velvet glove for the innocent people. We are 99.9%. हमने ये भी कहा कि कोई बेकसूर को नुकसान ना हो, उसको किस किस्म का उसका घर, उसके लाइफ लिम को कुछ ना हो. लेडीज को रिस्पेक्ट करना है, बच्चों को रिस्पेक्ट करना है, बूढ़ों को रिस्पेक्ट करना है. These were the principles we were working on. But now I'll take the opportunity of saying, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman,
sure,
that we are talking about action plan. Some people will get the impression, having heard the Vice Chief of the Army, having heard Shekhar and some others, that action plan means hit them militarily and that's it. No. The action plan has to be an all-encompassing action plan which has to have dimensions which are political, which are military, which are social, which are economic, and now ideological, but religious also. So if you have a plan, I would like to be part of any part of that plan to ensure that we keep our country united and we progress. I will just add one more. When this Kashmir problem started, I was one of the first brigade commander who was sent to Kashmir when there were slogans and thousands of people on the roadside, Azadi, Azadi, Azadi. We handled the situation very well in the next 4 or 5 years and brought down the level of terrorism, militancy, using this philosophy of an iron fist and a velvet glove. People were with us. 70 young men surrendered to me in my brigade, gave up the arms and said, even if we get killed by the terrorists, we don't want to go on this path. What I'm trying to say is that the political, the economic and social and the administration failed to take off from what we gave them. And we have come back to square one. Philip, I would like to correct you a little bit. The latest situation, I believe, is that they are having mass gatherings around posts. And what do the posts do? How will they defend themselves if they are surrounded by 2,000 people? This is the latest strategy now they are taking on. And I must tell you, they are being, naturally, they are being dispersed, but some casualties are taking place. I want to mention to you here, to this wonderful gathering here, and we want to take this forward to what Bhupendra Chaubey said, let's do something concrete.
Right.
And therefore, we have to create an organization. I would like to say the organization must have the brainiest guys going into what I will call the anti-ISI cell. They will be the brains which will be thinking like a terrorist. They say, what next? I mean, what ingenious brains these fellows have, because they put the best brains, their best IT experts are in these organizations. And what did they think of? They thought of the towers, how to get down the towers by aeroplanes. Nobody could have dreamt of a scenario like that. They thought of a huge truck, Bhupendraji, a huge truck, which I was in Europe at this time and in France when this happened, a 75-ton truck going and mowing down people. Surely somebody saw him take a truck. Surely they know he's not a truck driver. Surely they know he's got some arms. So all those people did not participate. So when an action plan is going to happen, that action plan will have, as I said, a political dimension, because political direction is very important and it's a beginning point. But a platform created by the military or the armed people, forces to make it peaceful for them to do it, and then continue with the social, economic and religious and ideological fronts.
But who knows, maybe this counter-terrorism council which has been created could well be the,
Oh great, that's a clap for that. Said we must come to the brass tacks of the issue. That is, first point which is rightly to be understood is Jammu and Kashmir is not what people generally say Kashmir mein ho raha, Kashmir. Kashmir Valley is 50 km. It should be Giljit, Hunza, Skardu, which was part of the Maharaja's Kashmir. We should be talking together. Udhar kuch rights nahi hai. We should insist on, and is different, Udhampur is different, Nagrota is different, Ladakh is different, Kargil is different. After everything, Kargil is peaceful. What the hell is wrong in this small little area? Let us focus on the issues there, and I don't want to go into details about that, which we are aware that you have those things which can be done, and there's a military response, but keeping in mind this factor, and we have to be very, very careful and not go.
Focus. Yeah. What we want to do. You know, I mean, there are 2-3 options which all of you are suggesting. I see the Prime Minister goes, breaks bread, that's diplomacy, great. The Home Minister suddenly goes, one day we're saying we won't talk to the separatists, next day we are. This ping-pong diplomacy, you know, I think is a problem. But sir, let me just hear from Sushil, because he's been waiting for a while, then I'll come to you.
Because even if this option is not eventually implemented, this will open up other options. Because if the likelihood of this option is kept alive, then people would realize that what are the costs to be paid. And then chances are you will have sanity prevailing. So therefore, no option ought to be ruled out. We are literally fighting a battle for our survival. That needs to be kept in mind. Okay. But there are few questions that have come up, and I think we very often unnecessarily hem ourselves in, shackle ourselves. Are we interested in the territory of Kashmir or the people of Kashmir? Now, this question has an inbuilt implied logic that probably people are not with us. Territory of India is inviolable. That needs to be laid down as a primary condition, that there is no breakup possible anymore, number one. Number two, when it comes to people, we are a free nation. Our constitution, to a fault, perhaps anywhere in the world, is most liberal. And there is no constitutional debate here when it comes to what is happening on ground in Kashmir. It's not about rights, it's not about articles, it is about identity politics, which has degenerated into an Islamist jihad. So, if people, quote unquote, do not want to stay in the territory which will always remain in India, they must be told that this 1947 precisely on that reason, and they have a passage, a right of passage to wherever they want to live. We will not hold them hostages here. And this should be politically, legally made clear that they can go, they can migrate to whichever country they wish to. Yes. The world is theirs, and we will facilitate wherever possible. But the territory is inviolable, and we would like to hold them as people, as our own citizens, as we still do, with all the rights, with all the privileges. But this ought to be made very clear. Number two, counter is not feasible. Several other things have not been found feasible, and one of them is...
I'm amazed at who created this rule.
Just another.
How can you create this protocol?
I'll just remind, and I don't try and lose any opportunity to remind ourselves of this. It's 27 years. Not one genocidal crime against Kashmiri Hindus has yet been prosecuted, sentenced, pursued. Not one. People are roaming free. If a small, disorganized, disheveled country like Bangladesh today is punishing for the war crimes of 1971 and executing people 40 years plus after the event, I think we must, in sheer shame, should do something about it. Now, what do we do about it? It's not just we as a country or a democracy that we are, and a moral army that we are. The world democracies, the free world, decided on such things post-war. They had war tribunals, even after Kosovo they have. And there, the pristine laws of evidence, which are for peacetime, which are for civilized societies, which are for law and order, do not prevail, do not hold. You have special laws. You have tribunal deciding on what would constitute evidence, what would constitute crime.
Okay, let's try and wrap up this entire session now.
We need to deal with terror on those bases.
Lieutenant Compose, you wanted to...
I would like to add what Dr. Aziz wrote. That should have been like that. But the question is that issue of terrorism in Kashmir. What is it? They say, यहाँ क्या चलेगा निज़ाम मुस्तफ़ा. आज़ादी का मतलब ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह. Now that is the context, that is the mindset. When you are talking of the human rights violation of the people who are demanding secession from India, we should also appreciate that in the recent turmoil, our 2,300 security people have got injured. 2,300. Out of a total of 4,000 people, 2,300 security people have got injured. That means how much of restraint they have exercised. And you are talking
From like this, I know that this is a first of its kind experience for you as well. This will succeed if you don't judge the country. So maybe next time, we can get in more people. But since General Singh is here, who better than you, sir, to wrap up this?
Thank you, Bhupendra. I want to just say that we are a body of very eminent people. All of us have very serious concerns about national security and the situation in parts of our country, as also as global citizens. I want to remind everybody we are eventually global citizens. Having traveled abroad, you see, people are paranoid, they are scared. That element of fear is here also. दहशतगर्दी का मतलब क्या है? दहशत फैलाना. तो हम लोगों को दहशत already फैल रहा है. Forget all the other things. But one point I'll say, since we are on this panel, you made a comment that thousands of deaths don't matter and we have to get everything in order. I want to correct this impression that we cannot be guilty of irresponsible people.
I didn't say that, sir. I didn't say that.
No, you said something that thousands can die, 1,000 deaths will not say.
I didn't say
No, something you said of this kind. I don't know. I'm just, okay, even if you didn't say, I'm going to say.
He was talking about the other side who do not follow the rules.
All right. So I'm very happy. Our gathering here is very responsible, serious people. We say we don't want one innocent to die. If possible, get them, but no mercy for the guys who are willingly doing wrong things. And therefore that should be a way. But as Bhupendra said, what is the action plan? What is the takeaway from here? According to me, we have all decided that we'll sit down together and go beyond this and say that this plan should be certain guidelines from political aspect, certain guidelines from the military angle, which will make the platform, certain guidelines for the administration. Because once a platform has been made and militancy or violence has gone down, this is what it is. Certain guidelines for the media. I can assure you, Bhupendra, you represent the best of our media, but the fact is sometimes media goes berserk and they aid the agenda of the terrorists by espousing certain things and giving publicity.
It's actually both sides. Sometimes
Thank you.
A minute of what has happened today, and you can let's maybe we can meet again and we can then work out an action plan on the basis of the minutes, depending on what takes place in your second session as well.
Just one small point when you want to talk about army action, small action, politicians and avoid
Again, I'm saying that do not make the mistake of only looking at terror through the eyes of Jammu and Kashmir. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. No. There is, let me assure you, in Karnataka, and often, my problem is, sometimes I believe that, we get only and only obsessed with looking at one region, which should not be the case. Jammu and Kashmir is as important to us as is what is going on in Karnataka. But thank you, all of you. There is a second session, I believe.
I think the point that you raised about the criminal justice system where, people are put behind the bars in a preventive way, that didn't quite...
And I was trying to equate it in terms of what is going on in terms of our approach to terror. Maybe you can pick that point up when the second session takes place. But I would urge you, Aditya, that you should prepare an action plan at the end of the day, circulate it amongst the members here, then see what happens. There are enough tools which are in existence today, which are available to everyone, where you can actually make a difference. So I'd once again wrap this session up by saying, let us all certainly put our collective minds together and our collective might together, but let us try and move forward. We know there are problems, we know there are issues. Can there be a constructive narrative which can be created? I think should be the agenda for Counter-Terrorism Council. Well done, Aditya.